I can't see, is it, Mayor? Would you look up to see how the clock is? One more minute?
And I think that's about right now.
6:45 according to my phone.
Okay. 6:46, closing my computer. Claims. Chair would enter a motion for the approval of claims.
Your Honor, I move to pay consideration of claims in the amount of $750,687.06. The Elon credit card in the amount of $7,708.46. Manual checks in the amount of $4,507.72. Payroll and liabilities for 7/12/2024 in the amount of $233,061.94 for a total of $995,965.18.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Obviously not. Motion passes. Is there any additional that the committee needs to review or discuss?
No, Your Honor.
City Manager, do you have anything?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Maya, do you have anything?
No, I do not, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. There being no other business to come before the committee, I adjourn the Finance Committee at 6:47. There we go.
Ta-da.
Are you aware of the time?
I am, yep.
Just giving Kyle a second or two.
Giving Kyle a couple of seconds.
Oh, Emma can?
I now call the July 16th, 2024 City Council meeting to order at 7 p.m. Councilmember Bailey has agreed to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Councilwoman Borders will lead us in the invocation. If you could all please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to meet tonight. We ask your guidance as we work together in our efforts to do what's right for our community. Strengthen us as we make tough decisions that are right for our citizens. We ask that you watch over our police and first responders who protect and serve every day. Thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, Administrative Services Director, Mrs. Harris, would you please conduct the roll call?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilmember Dean Paranto.
Here.
Councilmember Lindsay Cox. Here. Councilmember Mike Bailey.
Here.
Councilmember Carla Borders.
Here.
Councilmember Kyle Larson.
Here.
Councilmember Christy Salisbury. Here. And Mayor Tim Hancock.
I am here, and I declare we have a quorum. I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda with the removal of agenda item 7, introduction and oath of office for Community Services Officer, and agenda item number 10-6, open container permit application for Inberg Miller Engineers Company picnic, with those two removed.
Your Honor, I'll make that motion as amended.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilman Paranto, second by Councilwoman Borders. Any other discussion? Any other changes? Are we good now? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. All right, we'll move on then to item 8, council committee reports and council members roundtable. We could have Councilwoman Borders start us off tonight, please.
Your Honor, I haven't had any meetings. I did attend EDGE last Thursday for the presentations, and I was very impressed by some of the requests that they had. They'll be meeting again this Thursday to discuss the grants. So PAWS met tonight, but I had to work late, so I was unable to attend. They're heavy into planning Paws and Pearls, and they'll have a booth at the fair, and they just finished Day in the Park, so pretty busy. And then, of course, I attended Finance Committee earlier tonight. And that's all I have.
Sounds good, thank you. Councilman Larson.
Your Honor, I attended the Solid Waste Committee yesterday, and all of the projects are moving along, are in a timely manner and within budget. And I do not anticipate that we'll be hauling garbage directly to Sandral as they are predicting. I think that their empty space inventory will prove that we have probably in 2030 before we need to worry about that. But there's a downtowners meeting, and their sole idea right at the moment is the parking lot behind Main Street, Kusels down to the end of, and I only counted 4 trailers that were being parked there. So I've been here since 2013, not on the council, and that's the last time it was very important. And it was important then because there were no handicap markers there, but they were just being parked on. Now, there is a considerable amount of, I would say, unauthorized vehicles being parked there on a long period of time. I don't know what our policy is on parking and overnight parking there, but there are a lot of vehicles that are extended that pass the 2-week period, and they're over 21 feet. So whom do we address that to find out so we can clear that jungle out?
We're trying to get that sorted. We're discussing right now the possibility of an ordinance that would make it so you can't be parking overnight in the city parking lot there, short of a permit. So that, because we have apartments there, that we would want to be able, I mean, naturally, they're going to want to park in that lot if they're going to be living in apartments.
Yeah, well, they would be grandfathered in, but those trailers, they're obviously, people that are living in the apartment are not parking trailers 200 yards away from their entranceway.
Yeah, and so that's, it's something that we, and actually, we had a separate meeting with Brian and I and a group from the downtowners and talked about this as well. And I just visited about it last night at office hours as well. And we're going to come with some ideas to the council here soon.
So we have some thoughts on that matter.
We're getting things in the works for it.
Because parking is a premium downtown. Nobody, for instance, I don't think you can walk less than 70 feet from Walmart. But if you walk 70 feet downtown in Riverton, you are out of your league because people don't do that. I mean, when they drive up to Mike's place, they want to park inside of Mike's building and then get out. So.
And you do that, right?
Once in a while.
So anyway, it's important to those individuals. My own office, I have off-street parking. I have it right there. So I understand the importance of it. And these people are very important part.
And we're trying to, it's turning into a good area of partnership between the downtowners and the city of Riverton, and hopefully other groups can get involved as well. But we're wanting to look at lighting. We're wanting to look at being able to see if we can get some cameras there. There's a lot of things that are in the works. I will say, in terms of how the downtowners envision it, they would like to have things like food truck Fridays there or something, and be able to have food trucks there and have it be a place where you can have events, that sort of thing. So I think it could be a good spot to use. It's going to take some work, but we're working on it, and we'll have some proposals here before too long.
Very good. Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you bringing that up. Councilman Peranto.
Well, Your Honor, Fremont County School Board 25, or the Rec Board for School to Board 25 met on the 1st of July. Other than paying bills, we were notified that Keith Bowder is going to be leaving our community. So that's going to leave a vacancy. And he's been on the board for a long time, about 6 years or so. And so since he's leaving, there will be a vacancy. The Riverton School District 25 will be advertising that vacancy, and anybody who's interested should submit their name to the school central office there on the Hill. And I haven't met with any other groups, and that's all I have.
The only requirement for that really being you have to live
in the School District 25
25.
boundaries. Yes, sir.
Which for the most part is the city of Riverton, a
little bit
outside of
Just
that.
a little bit outside the city limits, yeah.
Because I know that's the same boundaries actually for the fire department as well.
Exactly right.
Okay. Well, good. Thank you for letting us know. Anything else? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Nope, just paying the bills, and that was about it.
Deal. All right, Councilwoman Cox.
Your Honor, I haven't been to any meetings since our last meeting, but I was able to attend the Day in the Park on Saturday, and I feel like that was our biggest one in recent years. I mean, there were booths on all sides, it seemed like, so that was a lot of fun, and I went early enough to get to all of them before it was too hot. I also took the Legion baseball team out to Smith's and pulled weeds with them and got a lot of nice comment back from the community. I spoke to their staff, and the issue that they're having is that their corporate requires them to have a bonded landscaper, which is not a requirement in the state of Wyoming. So they're having a hard time finding someone that fits that role. So luckily we were able to help them out by volunteering, and they didn't hire us. We just got lunch from them, and that was really a nice perk, but I thought that was interesting. So they've been trying to get someone to get in there. They know it's an issue, and they can't pull out their employees to pull weeds. That's not their role in their job. So just kind of an interesting fact that that's why it hasn't been taken care of, not because they just are ignoring the fact. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Mr. Bailey?
Interesting problem.
Again, the Force Committee meeting this month was canceled, so I did not attend that. Again, it's sort of the middle of the summer, they're in the middle of projects, and so there's not a lot for the Force Committee to do. But again, starting here this fall, they will start making sure if we have any money left, if there's any projects we can squeeze into the end of the year, and if not, they'll start, again, prioritizing projects for next year. At Rotary today, the solid waste folks were there and gave us presentation on what all they're doing and moving forward, and the whole thing that Kyle's been telling us about for a long time. Again, we all of us government boards have challenges, is, you know, more things to do than we have money to do it with. And we discussed a lot of things, and, you know, the continuous trash getting thrown in ravines because people are irresponsible and don't want to take it out to the dump. And, you know, the theft of services of people putting their garbage in different places in the city and dumpsters, which all of us city residents that are paying for our trash service get to pay for the trash that they put in there for nothing. And so it's a challenge. And again, you know, I wish they had a way to just get the money they needed to do their job without charging tipping fees, so that people would just take their trash to the dump like they're supposed to. But I'm not going to get too much of a soapbox going, but it's one of my little pet peeves. But and then airport board's going to be at the end of the month, and so I did not have any other official meetings.
Well, if they saved up enough money, because that's part of what the money's going to, is to be able to shut down the Lander landfill and then reopen with scales and all that over at Sandra.
Yeah.
If they saved up enough money and it happens later, as Councilman Larson predicted, maybe they could waive the tipping fees in 2030 if.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Mm-hmm.
They could probably spend all the money trying to clean up all the mess around the county of the garbage and everything getting thrown in ravines. So
Yeah.
it's challenging.
Well, appreciate it.
And I'm gonna have to remember all the weed excuses when I get a ticket someday for not having weeds, but
You saved my
I don't
my
have
house.
any union landscapers to use either, so.
You can hire the boys.
Well, at this rate, they'd do it for free.
I'll come do it for free, Mike.
There you go.
I'll
I'll remember that too.
Okay,
Except you expect lunch.
and lunch, definitely.
That sounds like a good deal, if you ask me.
All right. Councilwoman Salisbury, I hadn't forgotten about you. I just figured we'd do yours last. Could you give us your report?
Yes, I haven't had any committee meetings since our last meeting. I do have a Wyoming Senior Citizens Board meeting next Tuesday that will be held in Riverton. But I wanted to take a minute and I know we give our appreciation to many people when we're having our roundtable comments. I just wanted to take a minute to recognize my fellow city council members. And I just really appreciate you guys, and you show up no matter what's going on in your own lives. And you put a lot into this community. And I just want people to know that you guys are great council members, and I appreciate all the work you do and showing up. And I just wanted to take a minute to recognize my fellow council members. I also wanted to just a shout out to our first responders once again with the weekend events. I really appreciate our officers and everyone that on a daily basis protects all of us and the time and effort and the long hours they're putting in. So I just wanted to get those two out. And then I had some good conversations with Kyle Butterfield in regard to the Senate bill that was just passed and signed by the governor about the temp limitations on psychoactive substances. And I know we'll be having more conversations about that coming up in future meetings, which I think has been important, and our community members have come to the meetings and brought up how it's affecting our youth and our community. So I'm excited about that.
Good, thank you. I appreciate that, and I agree with you completely in terms of both of those. We have a really good council, and I appreciate all of you. So thank you, Councilwoman Salisbury. Mr. Butterfield.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just have a few items. First, I'd like to add my appreciation to the folks that put on the Day in the Park event, and appreciate Arts in Action for their work in that, but also our staff members and our elected officials that participate. Our parks team, the police department, and many others helped to make that event a success, and we're so thankful for their work. We also look forward to the Rendezvous Balloon Rally this weekend, and express gratitude to the committee that's planning that and do such a good job every single year. Also for the cruise in and all the other activities that happen. I mentioned with Mr. Over on Monday morning that if you're ever bored in Riverton, you just haven't got out enough, because in the summertime there's always something to do, and we're so thankful for the activities that are put on and I think really show off our community. So we look forward to that, those activities this weekend. There are a few meetings that people can plan on this upcoming week and the following weeks. This Thursday at 5:30, there will be Planning Commission here in the council chambers. Thursday at 6 o'clock, there will be Evolve, Diversify, and Grow Our Economy, or EDGE meeting, and that will be in the court chambers, so just adjacent to this room. Again, that committee is charged with reviewing proposals for the optional 0.5% tax and economic development projects that are being proposed. The airport board is scheduled to meet Friday the 26th here in the council chambers. That meeting would have normally taken place this Friday, but it was bumped a week, so just to make sure folks know that it is on the 26th and not this Friday. I want to express gratitude to the work of our team, again, for their efforts on the budget. Mia's team specifically has been compiling the budget book, and that will be distributed very shortly to you. And you can receive hard copies if you'd like, but you will definitely receive a digital copy. And we appreciate the hard work of the team for compiling and preparing that. Today, the Urban Systems Committee met. As a reminder, this is another committee that focuses strictly on the infrastructure within Riverton, and maybe more importantly, our road system, not so much the water or sewer infrastructure. This is a state-sponsored program. There are representatives from the unincorporated county, WYDOT, and the city of Riverton on this committee. Currently, the Urban Systems Group has prioritized 2 corridors for exploration of improvement. The first is Airport Road. The second is Riverview Road. Right now, the balance in the account sits just under $2 million. I'll double check that figure to make sure you have that accurately. The balance in the account for the Urban System Program is $1,957,439. These funds are very critical to improving corridors, and the most recently completed project was almost 10 years ago. It just shows how long it takes to build this account and have funds sufficient to do a project. The committee will focus on those 2 prioritized corridors that I did just reference. Following the 4th of July holiday, I think it's important to recognize our first responders, our police department and our fire department, and the dispatchers. I know that several of our volunteer firefighters were mobilized for several days to protect our community and respond to fires. And so we appreciate them doing so through all hours of the day and night. but also the dispatchers that help coordinate and manage that. So we're so thankful for the solid work that we have in our county. Your Honor, those are the updates that I had prepared, but I would like to defer some time to Mr. Eggleston to provide you an update on construction projects, specifically those tied to the optional 1%. If it's okay, I'll defer the time to him.
Yes, please. Mr. Eggleston.
Thank you, Your Honor. This week was the kickoff on one real major project. The North Major and the College View project are well underway as of Monday. North Major from between Park and Sunset's been completely milled. They'll be putting in leveling course, some fabric, and then it will be paved. College View on the northern end of that, we started doing some milling there as well, but ran into quite a bit of clay underneath that northern section, which is the section that's, if you've driven on it recently, it's completely failed, and no wonder with the amount of clay underneath it. Right now I'm trying to absorb any changes to that project in the existing budget. However, if we have to replace a bunch of clay, I would anticipate maybe a change order in the future, but later on in the project. We'll start paving Arapahoe starting tomorrow and Thursday. The road's been basically reconstructed, new base. The base is so hard down there right now, some of the guys are commenting that why should we even pave it, but we will pave it. It's well underway. We've got some utilities, some manholes to raise and stuff like that, but well underway. Our concrete drainage project will start very near future. We had a pre-construction meeting on Monday with the contractor, and they'll be kicking that project off. Several drainages around the city. It's just a good year for good projects. 1st of August, we'll start our slurry seal project, and that'll wrap up all of our projects for the season.
Well, thank you. And I guess as a reminder to folks right now, it's closed on Major between North 8th West and Sunset. So that's that spot there where you would be driving to the...
Between Park and...
Oh, did I say North 8th West?
Park and Sunset's closed.
You can take North 8th West was my point.
Yes.
If you want to get around, take North 8th West or College View.
We will be leaving access points for the ambulances and emergency services to get in and out of that area. So the roads will be opened at different times, and the contractors are staying in communication with the ambulance and public safety.
Good, because that'd be rough if you had both Major and College View closed at the same time.
That won't happen.
Good. Anything else, Mr. Eggleston or Mr. Butterfield?
All I have.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. I guess I'd echo what has already been said about Day in the Park. It's an event that I really enjoy every year. Very good event this year. I did the same. I got there earlier so I wouldn't have to be roasting in the sun. We had a lot of vendors, a lot of people from out of town, actually. We had some vendors that were coming from Casper. I think there was a vendor that was also from Warland, if I remember correctly. Anyway, probably more like Wheatland. Anyway, it was very good, enjoyed it. I didn't spend too much money, so that was good. I mean, good in some ways, maybe bad in others. Vendors probably would have appreciated it if I'd spent more. But it was a really good time, and we had, of course, the balloon out, which was a lot of fun, and had the opportunity for folks to do some tethered rides in the balloon, and that was a great time. Also attended the EDGE meeting, which I thought was really good. I enjoyed listening to the presentations. It's very interesting to go to those meetings. I almost wish we could just do that as a collaboration thing rather than even talking about funding, because so many different people that were there talking about different things they had going on. It was like Well, this person could help you with that. It's kind of like the ties that we already have between Pertec, between Brunton, between
Legacy Molding.
Legacy Molding, and just there's a lot of different ways that we have our own internal back and forth with a lot of different businesses in town. And I think it's a great opportunity, and it's interesting to be at those EDGE meetings and just see some of those connections being built. And it was a good opportunity to attend. I went to the Rendezvous, 1838 Rendezvous opening ceremonies. I hadn't done that for a while. It was a lot of fun. We had the Lander pipe and drums there. They did a great job. They always do. I was surprised to see Kyle Leto has joined that group. You may not know it, but he is learning to be a piper. And he even had his nice fancy kilt and everything. So it was really good to see him there. I guess engineers can be musicians is maybe the lesson. But it was good. I enjoyed seeing him there, and his family's been involved with the Rendezvous forever. I mean, that's been their whole thing, but it was really good to see him. I guess as a reminder for folks, there is currently a fire ban for unincorporated areas within the county. So that means if you're going out of town, you cannot have fires in anything besides established rings. There's other exceptions, you'd have to look it up, like you can use a propane grill and that kind of thing, but in the unincorporated areas in the county, they do currently have a fire ban. No fireworks, no fires except for established fire rings, portable fire pits with screens, that kind of thing. No chainsaws unless you have spark arresters. So anyway, just FYI, that was established by the county. And Councilman Larson mentioned this, but we have been talking quite a bit about the downtown parking lot and a lot of effort into figuring out things we can do there. One of the things we're realizing is we have established ordinances for abandoned vehicles, which are within residential areas. So you can't have an abandoned vehicle in a residential area unless it's screened from public view. You may be familiar with the recent news story / meme that went around where somebody had a boat and they had to screen it from public view, so they did, and in an act of passive aggressiveness towards the city, which, you know, whatever, I can understand, they painted their fence that was screening it from public view to look exactly like the boat was still there, which I thought was funny.
It's brilliant.
Thought it was great, but
That was graffiti?
no, it was his own fence.
Oh.
So anyway, that's abandoned vehicles, and then we also have other ordinances or state statutes about abandoned vehicles on highways. But when it comes to commercial areas, which is kind of what you were talking about, Councilman Larson, we're finding we need to figure out some solutions. So we're looking at that and trying to get that sorted out. We also have some vehicles that are being lived in that area too, and so we've got some opportunities to look at different possible ordinances and figuring out ways we can ensure we're taking care of things in that sense. Folks may be familiar with a recent United States Supreme Court case in response to an ordinance from an Oregon city that was making it illegal to sleep in public areas, including rights of way and that kind of thing. The United States Supreme Court said that having that be something that you have as a violation of city ordinance or state law or anything like that is not cruel and unusual punishment. And so, I don't know. There's a couple of things that might be open to us and we can consider and talk about. But I guess stay tuned. We'll look at some different ideas. All right, communication from the floor now. This is an opportunity for citizens' comments. I would encourage folks, if you'd like to comment on something that is set for a public meeting, that includes ordinances, that kind of thing, you will have an opportunity to speak during that public meeting. If there's something that you'd like to speak about that's on the agenda that's not got a public meeting set, get my attention. I'll give you an opportunity to speak if you'd like. I would ask in either event that you keep your comments to about 5 to 10 minutes. And when I say 5 to 10, I mean for an individual, I'd ask you to keep your comments to 5 minutes. If you're a part of a group, I would ask you to split up the time between the groups so that it's 10 minutes for the group. I would ask you to keep to typical rules of decorum, address all comments and questions to the chairman, refrain from use of individual names if it can be had, keep your comments directed to the issue under consideration if you are speaking during an item that's on the agenda. And I'd also ask you to avoid making comments of a personal nature, criticism, name-calling, ridicule, that kind of thing. So, I see you're standing up. If you could come up and tell us your name, and if you're with an organization, the group you're with, and just let us know.
Hi, I'm Chuck Rogers. I'm here by myself. At first, I want to tell you how much I appreciate, the dedication that it takes for you to serve your community. It's hard work. The time that's involved, I know, is remarkable, and it interferes with your life, and your family life, and no matter what you do, sometimes you wind up being a slow-moving target, so I guess that's the nature of the beast. My thing is, again, and still, the intersection of West Main and Hill, especially as you come from the north, from the college. I think that what's been painted, making a triangle, so that if you're in the lane, it opens up your vista, tremendously. And I appreciate that. I think, I spent quite a bit of time just kind of checking things out there. And at first, after it was painted, people were not making the turn. They were just going straight. And boy, there were a couple of near misses. One person who went across from the college to Hill Street on the south side of Maine has no idea that they owe their life maybe to the driver who was coming in from the north, who swerved, to miss him, and that person just went on. I don't think they had any clue that it could have been, at the end. And another incident where somebody was turning left onto Maine. I think people really are minding that. I mean, I think that, more and more people, every time I've been up there lately, people are in that lane. And I think once you go in the lane, you're going to go back, because all of a sudden you can see what might be coming, So thanks for that. I have one suggestion to consider. Ideally, it would be good to change that intersection, but I don't know that that's feasible. But I think this works well. I personally would like to see maybe a 1-inch rise, so that triangle is maybe an inch high, and maybe a what do you call it? A traffic strip.
Kind of like a median, a small median there. Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah. But if you drive off the side of a highway,
a bumper,
a rumble strip. Yeah. Maybe a little rumble thing, just to keep people on that lane. But small bendable flags or something. I am aware that, we don't want to, for many reasons, put something like we have, on Main and First, where you run into it and you ruin your car or something. But trucks coming north or west on Main, you have a large truck and it may be making deliveries. So it has to be something where they can swing wide if they need to. And so, we don't want to put a hard barrier there. But, I think if you had something an inch, not a foot, but, an inch high with a rumble strip, that truck could make that turn without any damage. And or some kind of flags or something to indicate, especially in the winter, that here's where your lane goes, So anyway, that's it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I was actually just thinking that would almost be a very good spot for a roundabout.
Your Honor,
Yes, ma'am.
in Bozeman, there's a lot more traffic than there used to be, and on many of the streets, they have like orange plastic reflector things that they put up to manage where people are going. That I'll take a picture and show it to Brian,
Okay.
because I think that would work perfect there. It wouldn't be a lot of money, and it would do what Chuck's talking about.
Yeah, and I will say it's interesting how even the way that they just have the lane changed and everything, it's attention drawing, because you come up a little bit, there's a little bit of a rise there, and it's enough that you can see it. And I've noticed when I've been there quite a bit because my wife and my daughter were in the play, so I was over at CWC quite a bit, and then I'd come out on Main Street. So I was pulling out there, and it makes a difference. I agree with you. I mean, something else in terms of engineering that could make a big difference too, but there's nothing that says that you can't be reminding us, so please feel free. It's something we can always look at, and I think this idea of Councilwoman Salisbury's could be good, and we'll consider some different ideas to keep the attention there. Mr. Baker.
And I think you probably know, but Mr. Rogers, we have got a hold of YDOT, and we've looked at some of their stuff, and right now it does not qualify to have a street light. They did a traffic study, which I agree with you. It's a treacherous little funky intersection. But it's definitely on our radar, and I think as things progress, we'll do the best we can to get that cleaned up in whatever way we can, so.
It's just a combination of so many things.
Yeah.
It's so wide, so getting across it to get to Hill Street takes a bit of time, but then you've got that curve from people coming from outside of town coming into town, and that sometimes gets hard to see.
Then Hill Street's at a funky angle, and
Yep.
you got a curve and an angle, and, yeah, so it's.
So, but, yeah, okay. Well, in the meantime, we'll look at that as another option, and I appreciate you reminding us of it. Thank you. Well, you're certainly welcome.
Mayor Hancock, council, staff, good to be here this evening. I was afraid that you might forget who I was, so I thought I'd better come out and visit with you this evening. I too attended the Day in the Park, and what a beautiful park we have. Gee whiz, it's great to see that. One thing that concerned me as my wife and I were leaving, we had that beautiful splash pad that somebody has put a lot of time and effort and heartburn into to figure out how to pay for it, and it wasn't being used. And so I just wanted to throw that out as a question of, is that not functional anymore, or are we not?
It's working. Actually, I'll tell you, when I was there, I don't know when you and your wife got there, Mr. Warpness, but when I was there, I left right around noon.
11 o'clock.
I left right around noon, and there was a lot of takers.
Oh, was there?
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear.
There were about 5 or 6 kids out there and
Good.
enjoying it.
Good.
So,
That makes me feel better.
I wonder, did we wait to turn it on until noon or something?
It's on a timer, Mayor.
Okay.
Oh. So it is being used. All right, great.
Yep.
I don't have any little munchkins running around, so I don't keep up with that stuff very well. The other thing, my wife gets up early in the morning and goes for a 3-mile hike while I'm sleeping in. And so this is something that's she brought to my attention. And I looked at it. In 2005, we rebuilt Main Street. And I was on a new councilman, and I didn't get the memo from Mayor Eichler that he didn't want the staff or the council to be involved in that project. Why, I never did understand that. But anyway, I started attending the meetings, and we went to over 100 meetings to rebuild our Main Street. And to get the accoutrements that we have on Main Street, the trees and the benches and the flower pots and the baskets and everything, it was a challenge every step of the road.
Seats.
And so it was a challenge. So anyway, my wife asked me, well, what are these construction cones on Main Street? And I said, construction cones? What are you talking about? Well, right across from the Elks, okay, is 2 construction cones. The trees in those grates have been lost or died or taken out or whatever. And I said, well, how long have they been out? And she says, well, over a year. And so they, in order, as a safety, a tripping hazard, because the grates, which are very expensive, we spent a lot of money for those dang grates, you know, and they're beautiful. But my suggestion would be that if you're going to put cones in there, it looks like a construction area and it's shabby. And we need to get a couple trees in there or take the grates out, store them someplace and just cement it in. And, you know, go one way or the other, but it just looks like hell the way it is now. And it has been for quite a while. So anyway, that was the 2 items that I wanted to draw to your attention. And I can go back now to the RNC convention and see what's going on. So,
Thank you, Mr. Warpness. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So are those the same side of the street as the Elks or across the street?
Across the street.
Okay.
Yeah, just up from me, kind of at the motel there.
Those are Dean's trees, I think.
No,
Are they?
the one in front of my sign is really big.
Yeah.
It needs to be
We
moved.
can move it up to that other spot.
I'd pay for that.
Just down there. It's funny.
You're on.
I just completely went past them.
Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Mayor Warpness, were you going to talk about the lights on Main Street? What are our plans
So,
on those lights that are out?
Your Honor, Mr. Larson, we did receive a grant through the U.S. Department of Energy to replace all of those. They'll be retrofit with LED lights instead of the incandescent bulbs.
So it's in the process?
Yes.
Working through it. Thank you.
it's in the plan for the budget this year.
Yes, it is.
We're not talking like 10 years down the road.
No, we put the money in the budget this year, but we also received the Department of Energy grant to reimburse us after it's done.
Congratulations on that grant, by the way. Nice job.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I was wondering about the trees. Didn't we just have a presentation not long ago about a tree study?
Oh, that they're going to be doing with the flaming tree services?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Would that be included in would Main Street be included in that, or?
Are there any plans to
Do we know?
replace those trees, Mr. Eggleston?
Your Honor, thank you. We plan to replace those trees, but not part of that project. The downtown area doesn't qualify as an area that would be eligible for trees through that grant. However, my staff has been looking at replacing those trees. They just want to get the right variety of tree that'll survive in that atmosphere and not overgrow the sidewalks and the buildings. And so we're looking at it.
Okay. How soon do you think we could expect to see something taking place there? Because I guess I'm maybe too accustomed to traffic cones. I was just down there the other day, and I certainly didn't pay them hardly any mind. Maybe I thought they were trees. I don't know. Small orange trees. Yeah.
Your Honor, I'll have to get with my staff and see what their timing is on it.
Okay. Well, thank you. I wasn't trying to push you too much on it, but just to answer Mayor Warpness's question. Anybody else?
I think Brian is planting some seedlings, so it might be a while before they get big enough to replant.
Work on them. All right, well, I appreciate it, and I always appreciate commentary and comments and questions, and thank you. And I will say, you know, I don't traverse every inch of the town. I don't think any of the council members traverse every inch of the town. I try. Yeah, that's an idea. Actually, my son just got an electric scooter, and he really likes it. Yeah. Oh, no, I agree with you there. That's what I said. I was just there, and the fact that I didn't, my eyes just completely went over it. I've driven down Main Street multiple times a day, and I don't even pay attention to it. So I appreciate you noticing it. Or as I should say, Mrs. Warpness probably noticing it. Yes, that's okay. We'll blame her because she's not here. But anyway, I appreciate it, and I would encourage folks, as you see things, let us know. If it's something that we can improve, I think we're always willing to receive feedback, so thank you. All right, Administrative Services Director, Mrs. Harris, could you please read the consent agenda items by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Approval of the minutes, July 2nd, 2024, regular council meeting. Approval of the minutes, July 16th, 2024, Finance Committee meeting. Approval of the Finance Committee recommendations, July 16th, 2024. Approval of the Municipal Court report for the month of May and June, 2024. Open container permit application, livestock liquor, Friday night cruise at 107 South 7th Street East, July 19th, 2024, from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m.
Thank you. Any other items requiring further discussion?
Your Honor, the Finance Committee met earlier today at 6:45, and there was a motion to pay $750,687.06, credit cards in the amount of $7,708.46, and manual checks in the amount of $4,507.72. Payroll and liabilities through the 12th of July in the amount of $233,061.94 for a total of $995,965.18.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Cox with the motion, Councilwoman Borders with the second. Discussion or amendments?
Your Honor, I'll abstain from the Bailey Enterprises line items on the Finance Committee report.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. EDGE recipient reports. Mrs. Harris, would you let us know
Thank you.
what we got going on?
On August 18th, 2020, the voters of Fremont County approved the optional 0.5% sales tax for the purpose of economic development. Economic development is defined as any project that retains or increases employment or results in a net gain of money into the community. Since the inception of the tax, the city of Riverton has received over $2.5 million and distributed slightly more than $2.1 million. This fiscal year, beginning July 1st, 2023, the city has distributed $928,295 in funding. So far, 4 of the recipients, QUORUM, Central Wyoming College, Riverton Medical District, and the Riverton Ice Hockey Association, presented progress reports on their funding. Tonight, 2 more recipients are here to present the status of their project and how their funding has benefited their organizations and the local community. I would like to turn the floor over to representatives of Brown Sugar Coffee Roastery, followed by High Country Fungus, to present an update on their projects.
Good evening. I'm Amanda from Brown Sugar Coffee Roastery. Reports. So as the council probably knows, I've had some delays, but I would like to report that today, as of 11:30 a.m., I'm officially licensed or relicensed for coffee roasting. We did have an instance where We found out some of the equipment that we were going to purchase was not going to fit in the Broadway building that I purchased. So we had to pivot a little bit. I did make a purchase of a building at, I think it's 118 South 3rd Street East. It's the old Gizmos building. I think that's the right address, which we've remodeled, and we are now officially roasting in that building. And we do still have plans to build our restaurant on the Main Street lot on 5th and Main. And I'd love to give you an update on that, but I could not get a hold of my contractor today. But he's assuring me that he's ready to break ground, hopefully at any moment. But he's also been saying that for 2 months. In terms of how the EDGE grant has benefited us, even though we have had a little bit of setback, I do have a potential machine operator hired that will start with me for the fall, so that will be a full-time position. That's actually going to be our first full-time position other than myself at my business, so that's kind of exciting. And then we're hoping to add a couple other part-time positions. I don't know if anybody in here gets a lot of people. I get a lot of like 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds that come in and ask for jobs, and unfortunately we just don't really have a whole lot for that age group. But I do have the opportunity to have a lot of part-time help, especially with the coffee packaging after school. So I'm excited to get some of those kids going on that. Is there any questions?
Yes, if I'm trying to remember, and I'd have to go back and look, what had actually been purchased or was said would be purchased, was it
Yeah.
packaging, or was it the roaster itself that the EDGE funds went toward?
Yeah, so I applied for both, but I got approved for the packaging equipment. So I do have the K-Cup machine already here, and so that will be set up. I can set that up as early as tomorrow now that we got approval from the Wyoming Department of Agriculture. So that will make the Hampton Inn very happy. I know Ryan's been waiting on that. And then we also have a pre-packaged, or it's a pre-pouch packaging machine that will be installed here as well.
Great. So right now, have the equipment planned, and you've needed the space, and you've needed the relicensing, and then needing somebody to run it.
Yeah, and I can run it, but I mean, I got other things to do too, so the whole point is to build a business. But yeah, so I know I had reported that, you know, I purchased that building on Broadway, the 330 building, which is a beautiful old building that's for sale if anybody's interested now. It's got a really cool granary elevator, but I did not understand, I guess, the restrictions of the height. So it was going to cost us a lot of money to tear off that roof and scissor truss that. It was done, the roof was all enclosed in, what is that, like a rafter system. So I didn't have the height. It does look like a tall building because it actually sits high, but so we had to pivot a bit. So I am now the proud owner of Gizmos.
Great. That was, and I mean, that was mainly my question, because that's what had been funded. I know part of the plan with the packaging was to be shipping roasted coffee out, as well as having it used here at Hampton's, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And that's still in the works.
Yep, that's still in the works. Now that we are in a bigger facility, I don't know, a lot of people maybe weren't aware that the building that we're in right now, it's a beautiful historic building, but I was in a very small space within that restaurant, small space being a sea container. So there really wasn't a whole lot of opportunity to roast. And then I also had to roast at hours where we weren't in operation for the restaurant. So there was a lot of limitations. So I had to put a lot of my wholesale on pause, but hopefully now I can get all that back up and running as of tomorrow.
Good deal.
Yeah.
I just wondered how your meeting went with the airlines. Did that get thrown back as well with your delays? Or?
Yeah, it did, but there's still an opportunity, and I'm hoping that we can still secure some of that because fortunately for us, they had some delays on their end too.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, I'll hopefully find out a little bit more about that in the next couple weeks.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
All right. All right.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming in.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council.
United States of America.
RNC.
Where we are.
That's it. I didn't pay him to do that. So my name is Daniel Stewart. High Country Fungus is my company. I founded here in 2021. Our original goal was to work on a cutting-edge biodegradable packaging solution. Mushroom materials is what I called it. And I've gone through a couple of different local support. So we won the Impact 307 Challenge, and then we came to Riverton Edge and looked for some support to help develop this project. Unfortunately, we reached a critical failure point with a number of different aspects on that project. Anywhere from some of the lab performance on my mushroom growth, contamination to supply chain issues. At the, I would say, during some of these challenges, we were simultaneously selling a line of mushroom-infused beverages. So I made the decision after many months of review of the product line to pivot fully. And so at the point of purchasing one of the pieces of equipment that we were going to use for our mushroom packaging, we chose to invest in our current operation. And it's gone quite well, I should say. Our mushroom infused beverage line has started at a couple of stores here in Fremont County and has gained a little bit of national attention as I've been, let's say, roped into a business cohort, which is sort of an incubator to help me scale this product to national level, to different retailers. So we've been to 2 different trade shows through the Specialty Food Association carrying this product. And now we're receiving some further benefits from the incubator that we're in. So I'm in basically, it would be packaged food school. So they have 6 months of educational seminars, modules that I'm going through and developing the business with. Insider resources from longtime buyers and other parts of the industry as well to help us learn. Community impact that we've had with our project is quite exciting. So I've grown this product from the Food Freedom Act. And as we know, we have a number of producers operating under that level. And they're eager to grow their product, but there's a lot of barriers. And so I'm able to work with a lot of these producers and share this knowledge that I'm gaining from this cohort and this incubator to help develop a number of different product lines as we're working together. Yeah, I think that's brings us up to date.
Thank you. Any questions?
I'm curious what a mushroom-infused beverage actually is.
Yeah, thank you for that. I wanted to kind of gloss over some of the generals of what we've done with the business before we dive deeper into that portion. So I wanted to stay within my wheelhouse. I know quite a bit of different parts of mycology, and I take 7 different functional mushrooms, so medicinal and gourmet mushrooms. We're talking about reishi, chaga, lion's mane, turkey tail, shiitake. All of these are also made into extract powders. And so it's a bit of a supplement. There's quite a number of health benefits from each mushroom that we infuse into our beverage line. We also sell the mushroom blend on its own as a supplement. what I found in this emerging field, in this product category, is that a lot of it tasted like mushrooms. And I'm a mushroom guy, but I don't like the taste of just kind of dried mushroom. So I worked really hard to create flavor-forward beverages. We have a chai, a cacao, and our coffee is our leading. It's kind of our leading product right now. But I think that's just because coffee is a great sell.
Any other questions?
You had me a coffee.
As it stands right now, I think you could buy some of it at the Fremont local market. Thank you.
Yeah, we're, the 2 retail locations currently are the Fremont local market here in Riverton, and then the Meadowlark Market and Kitchen in Lander. I do have interested gift shops and retailers in Wyoming. We're also looking at our options with the e-commerce. And so it's a matter of supply and demand and where I can meet that right now. It's exciting. I keep having stock out. I keep running out. Trying to keep up with that problem.
And are you growing all those mushrooms here, or are you having to bring some in, or?
Right. Thank you for that. That's an important point too. We infuse with a extract, and so it's a process. In order to do that process, it involves a number of different steps that I just can't do on my own in a sustainable manner. So one of the mushrooms, for instance, is only forageable in certain high northern latitude forests, so we wouldn't be able to grow it. But, the long answer is no, or the short answer is no. We're importing that. We are sourcing our coffee from a Wyoming roaster currently, and always looking to bring that as close to home as possible. Part of the work I've done with the trade shows is to look at mass production to make connections with co-manufacturers. But one thing that I noticed and identified is we're in a sort of in a black hole. A lot of business on the West Coast, a lot of business on the East Coast, and a lot coming through here, but not a lot of co-manufacturing, not a lot of manufacturing happening. And so as I work to develop that for my own business, we're looking what can we do for our community members here that want to cross this bridge, and there's certain significant challenges to manufacturing here, but I think at a light and medium, at a small and medium scale, it makes a lot of sense for us to establish it and to work forward with it.
And I guess the same question, were the funds that were provided to you from EDGE, were those used for what you had said they would be used for? I know you had said that you had to pivot from that, but thermofoaming machine, pasteurization unit, rolling shelves, supplies necessary for mold making.
Right. I started the process, and we were able to purchase some of the things to start that project. But when it came to purchasing the large machine, the $16,000 former, I really couldn't justify the non-use of it when it got here, and that money got invested in launching this line.
Okay. Okay. So going forward, you're intending on kind of expanding the drink line, so to speak, working in that regard, trying to figure out ways to have it become more scalable and.
Certainly, yeah. We have some equipment arriving in the next 10 days to help increase my production. I'm currently in an inspected kitchen and working on my manufacturing license in order to get our product across state line. So it's all sort of happening really fast, but it's a lot of fun.
Well, sounds like it.
Your Honor.
The wild and exciting world of mushrooms.
Wild mushrooms. What employment impact have you had on our community?
Well, I've yet to be able to hire. Part of that has been my location, operating under the Food Freedom Act for so long. We haven't been able to grow enough to sustain employment. And so I'm looking forward to having more space and larger batch sizes and passing that production off so that I can do my job as the founder and start to grow the business. I'm aiming by the end of the quarter to have an option available. Is it full-time? I'm really hoping, but it certainly will be a part-time position available. So I'm pretty excited. It's been a long haul for me to get out of my garage, and now we're going to be able to cross that threshold. And with the holiday season approaching, I think that'll really help boost our sales and generate the revenue we need to reinvest in local employment.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
All right. Feels like we're grilling you a little bit. We're just wanting to ask. Anything else on that item there? Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Harris. Moving on, public hearing and consideration fireworks permit application, Riverton Rendezvous Balloon Committee, July 20th, 2024. Ms. Harris. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just read the item and looked at you expectantly.
Included in your packet this evening is the application for a fireworks permit for the Riverton Rendezvous Committee, along with a site map and a letter of endorsement from Riverton Volunteer Fire Department Chief Jake Blumenshine. The committee plans to have a live music and fireworks show at the Hot Air Balloon Glow at CWC Soccer Fields and JC Park this Saturday, July 20th, 2024. The events will begin at 6 a.m. and will end at 11 p.m. with the fireworks show beginning at 10 p.m. Last Friday, July 12th, the Board of Fremont County Commissioners did issue a fire ban effective immediately until further notice. The ban extends only to properties within the unincorporated areas of the county, and each municipality regulates the land within its own boundaries. The city clerk's office did contact Chief Blumenshine this afternoon and asked if he is still in favor of endorsing the fireworks this Saturday, and Mr. Blumenshine was still supportive. He indicated that the fire department will be on standby with wildland trucks and an engine company if anything should arise. The final decision to launch or cancel will be mutually made between the ranking fire officer and the pyrotechnician in the event of unfavorable conditions. And I would stand for any questions.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to open the public meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Larson, second by Councilwoman Borders. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Are you there, Councilwoman Salisbury?
Yes, I said yay, but my mute was still on, sorry.
No worries, just wanted to make sure, didn't want to lose you. I declare the public hearing is open. It will be conducted in accordance with state statutes and other applicable laws. I'd ask individuals wishing to speak on this subject to approach the podium, identify yourself for the record. As I noted, please keep your comments to 5 minutes for individuals, 10 minutes for someone who's a part of a group, or anyone in the audience who wishes to speak. You've been waiting.
Yes, I have. Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. I'm Christopher Hauser. I am the Vice Chairman for the Riverton Rendezvous Balloon Committee. We are looking forward to our event this year. We have 20 pilots that are going to be coming in, 3 international pilots, 2 that are from Canada, and 1 that is from Belgium. With the yearly tradition, I do have your pins, so I'll present that to
Oh, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There's another pin.
Any special shapes this year?
Yes. We actually will have 3 special shapes this year.
Okay, cool.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Hauser.
Little bags too, thank you.
Thank you very kindly.
This would be very rude in Japan, by the way, to open a gift right after you've been given it.
We will have 3 special shapes. One of our special shapes, the pilot, that's one of our international pilots, the one from Belgium, is bringing Princess Nellie. It's an elephant balloon that's pink. So we're looking forward to that. We'll have Humpty Dumpty back again, like last year. And then we have one of our pilots that attended last year will be bringing his baby T-Rex. So we are looking forward to our event this year.
Nobody is going to miss this as a lapel pin.
Oh, no.
It from
It stands out.
That is cool.
That is really.
Well, good. I'm looking forward to it. So Humpty Dumpty, but not off the wall this time, huh?
Nope.
We had both of them a couple years ago. That was
That we did. So I'm going to say just a normal Humpty Dumpty.
Well, that's good. And then we have Jamie. In.
Yep, Kinghorn. That has the Eye of Ra balloon. And then we have another Canadian pilot. His name is Willie Tellion.
Okay, good. I don't know. Has he been here before?
He was here last year. It was his first year last year.
Okay.
So.
A lot of fun. Well, good. Well, have you, how have you been doing on getting sponsors?
Good. I'm going to say we kind of revamped our sponsorship this year. So we got, I want to say 17 to 18 sponsors total, but then we also decided to open it up to doing paid rides during the rally because we had a lot of interest from people in the community wanting to get a flight during the rally. But unfortunately, in previous years, we haven't been able to do that. But this year, we worked it in, and we have a handful of individuals that have booked their paid rides. So
perfect. And is that going to be in Cloud Kisser?
It is actually going to be in all of our pilots that are not sponsored. Will end up taking paid passengers.
Great. Good. Well, good. Well, it sounds like a lot of fun. I guess the one thing that, tell us about crewing a balloon real quick.
So crewing a balloon, it's a lot of fun. So the only thing that sucks is the early morning. So when we'll be looking for crew all 3 days, best thing to do, come out. We'll do check-in about 5:30 in the morning. And the pilots do their briefing at 5:45. Anyone can come in and crew. You can learn about ballooning and all the different aspects and see the balloons up close. And then you'll help get the balloon set up, get the balloon fully up, and then you once the pilot takes off, the crew will go and chase the balloon down. So it's a lot of fun. Enjoy it. So.
You need crew people.
Yes, most definitely. We always need crew, especially on our Friday and Sunday are our 2 biggest days that we need crew.
No experience necessary. I would recommend you wear long sleeve shirt and pants and wear gloves, shoes. Don't go barefoot.
Yeah.
Don't wear sandals.
Yep. No.
I'm just telling you, sometimes the balloons come down places you don't.
I'm gonna say in the middle of nowhere with sagebrush. So.
Yeah, but it's a really fun experience, and I would encourage, if you haven't crewed on a balloon before, do it. And even if you have, do it again.
Oh yeah.
It's if you don't have crew,
you don't
fly.
Yeah, you don't get to fly. The balloons don't go up. So crew is a very essential part of ballooning.
Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
Chris, how many people do you want for a crew?
So the pilots, they tell us what they need for crew. So you're looking from 3 to 4 people per pilot. But with the special shapes, you could be looking 5 to 6. Okay. So overall, looking between 50 to 60 overall. But the more, the better, because some people, like on that Friday, they'll come. Some will just help set up and then have to leave. And so they won't have a full chase crew.
Okay, and one other thing, just to clarify for the public.
Yep.
When you say chase,
I'm gonna say you'll get into.
this is not on foot.
No, you'll.
Car and it's all-
Yep, there will be a vehicle involved. So some of the pilots will designate their crew chief to be the one to drive their vehicle. You can go in the vehicle with them, or you can follow in your own vehicle.
Gotcha, thank you.
Well, thank you. Sorry, I don't know. I don't know how it feels to be peppered with questions. I hope it doesn't feel like you're being peppered with questions, but
No.
appreciate it.
Your Honor, I had one more
Yes,
question.
go ahead.
Sorry. Is there still availability for the paid rides? And if there is, who do they contact to arrange that?
Yes, there is. The person to contact is going to be Andy Samuelson. And then you can also find the information on our Facebook page as well.
Thank you.
You wouldn't have a phone number, would you?
That I do. Give me 1 second.
He's gonna get so many calls.
This is his personal cell phone. You can call it at all times.
Anytime.
All hours of the day or night.
Yep, so Andy's number is 307-851-4446.
If you get his voicemail, just keep calling.
All right, well, thank you very much, Mr. Hauser. Appreciate it, and thank you very much for the gifts, and
Yes, thank you.
we'll make good use of them. Any other public comment? I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Moved.
Second.
Councilman Peranto with the motion, second by Councilwoman Cox. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Public hearing is now closed. I'd entertain a motion to approve the fireworks permit for the Riverton Rendezvous Balloon Committee on July 20th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Cox with the motion, Councilman Bailey with the second. You were the last time.
We're good.
Any other discussion? Questions, anything? All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, moving on. Public hearing and consideration of ordinance 24002, first reading, public heads hiring, public heads. Department heads hiring concurrence. This is my report. I've been going blind to this whole time. I didn't realize I didn't even have my staff reports up. Give me just a minute to get this up. All right, so this is something that actually came from me, my recommendation in terms of history. I think everybody on the council was here when this was discussed last time in terms of the discussion as to a strong mayor ordinance. July 6, 2021. No, that's 2023. No, 2021. Wow, was that long ago? All right, governing body considered ordinance number 21014, form of government, strong mayor. Ordinance proposed a modification to the form of government for the city of Riverton, vest almost all the powers of the city administrator in the mayor. That sounds a little bit different, I guess. It was basically both of them would have the same authority. Ordinance failed on first reading. However, following discussion amongst the council at the July 20th, 2021 regular city council meeting, council directed staff to prepare an ordinance that would allow the council to make the selection process for senior staff. Prior to that proposal, the city administrator had sole authority to appoint department heads. Ordinance 21015 was presented to the council at the August 3rd, 2021 regular city council meeting, later passed on third reading with some changes from the first iteration at the September 7th, 2021 regular council meeting. In part, it basically provided the governing body would be vested with the sole authority to select and appoint department heads. In terms of selection and appointment, the only authority granted to the city administrator was to participate in the hiring of all department heads. And that was pursuant to ordinance 21.10.030I. City administrator, therefore, would supervise department heads for whom he or she had not been part of the selection process. City administrator, however, maintained the authority to terminate department heads. I just added that in there to make it clear in terms of the hiring and termination. still had that authority to do that, but in terms of the appointment, it was something that could be done without any city administrator feedback. Now, we've been a part of this previously, and I think we've had council members that have tried hard to make sure that we get feedback from Mr. Butterfield, but it's not written in the code. So proposed ordinance number 24002 would provide for the city administrator to make the selection of the department heads subject to the consent and approval of the city council. It would not remove from the governing body the ability to decide on the appointment of department heads, but would give the city administrator the ability to first propose their desired appointment. Budget impact, except for the cost associated with printing and ensuring electronic access to the proposed ordinance, would not have any impact on the budget. So first, I'd have Mrs. Harris, if you could read proposed ordinance 24002 by title only.
Proposed ordinance number 24-002, an ordinance amending Title II, Administration and Personnel, to revise Chapter 2.04, Mayor and City Council, Section 2.04.026, Chapter 2.10, City Administrator, Section 2.10.040, Chapter 2.12, City Clerk, Section 2.12.010, Chapter 2.13, City Treasurer, Section 2.13.010, Chapter 2.20, Community Development Director, Section 2.20.010, Chapter 2.24, Public Works Director, 2.24.010, Chapter 2.8, Chief of Police, Section 2.28.010 of the Riverton Municipal Code, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, and providing for an effective date.
All right, I'd entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Paranto with the motion, Councilman Bailey with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passed. I declare the public hearing open. Hearing will be conducted in accordance with state statutes and other applicable laws. I'd ask those individuals wishing to address the council to approach the podium, identify yourselves for the record. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak? Our rapidly dwindling audience, I should note.
Your Honor, seeing no one, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Councilman Paranto with the motion, Councilman Bailey with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I declare the public hearing closed. I'd entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 24002 on first reading.
Your Honor, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Councilman Paranto,
Second.
second by Councilman Bailey. Discussion.
So in essence, this clarifies the decision that was made previously in kind of cleaning up the verbiage in the ordinance.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, so the way it was done previously, and not that I fault it, the whole idea was to try to reach some concurrence, because the problem I think identified by Mayor Guard was one that we did want to address. As a matter of fact, I recall specifically when Mr. Tolstead, when this was first brought up, had said, well, it was my understanding that the senior staff positions, department heads, we use the two interchangeably, were already done with council concurrence. Well, as it turned out, it wasn't. It was something that, according to the code as it was at the time, there was no council concurrence, and the city administrator would be making those selections alone. And so what this would do is it would be able to make it so that per the code, the city administrator is a part of the decision-making process and not just participate in the hiring of.
Right.
They would make an appointment, and the council could decide to approve or disapprove the appointment. And so really, when it comes down to it, it's not really much of a difference in the power that the governing body has. It's just that we would have written in code that the city administrator is the one that can actually make that initial appointment.
Your Honor,
Yes, ma'am.
I think it makes sense for the administrator to have input who they are working with because their job is dependent upon their department head success. My question is the city, does this allow for the city council to still be involved in reviewing applicants to move forward to interview prior to that? Are they still part of the process? Or is it just he brings the applicant to us and we approve or disapprove it?
That's a good point, and I appreciate that question too, Councilwoman Salisbury, because we don't specifically have that written in there that we could be a part of the application process. That certainly isn't the intention to remove us from that. I would think that we would want to follow the same process we have, where we would be a part of the interview process, reviewing the applications. We could write that in, or we could leave it to the council's discretion.
Your Honor, from my recollection, I mean, that's sort of what we were looking for, is I think in the, the city administrator and the department heads, that we would like to have input in those decisions. And I don't think we want to totally take over the process by any means and not do it without the city administrator. But I think for those department heads, I think we want to be involved, as opposed to if, Brian wants to hire a new garbage truck driver, if that's his job anyway. But, I don't think we need to be involved in those positions. But I think as the management team, department heads, senior staff, whatever you want to call them, I think that's pretty important for us to at least be involved in the process.
Oh, I agree. And I think it's, really the reality is we get to direct the city administrator, the governing body does, by majority vote. And so if we wanted to have a process that we would follow that would be like that, we could. I don't think it would be against this ordinance, but it's also something that we can spell out. There's no reason we cannot.
Your Honor, instead of striking out the governing body by majority vote, can we say the governing body by majority vote and the city administrator and just include both?
Are you looking at 2.0?
I'm looking just at like section 3, appointment, the governing body by majority vote shall appoint city clerk, that section.
Governing body by majority vote.
Would that include the interview process then if we just said we were all part of it?
We could do that. The only thing, I think that would create some confusion with the language that basically the city administrator would then be one vote among 8. That makes sense if you were to word it that way. I can look at some ideas of wordsmithing this. This is, I don't.
Well, Your Honor,
Go ahead.
I think it's, like I said, I think it's important that the city administrator has some weight on who their selection is, obviously. And I think it's really hard to get city administrators in this day and age. So I think by not allowing them to have a big say in who they're working with can hamstring their ability to do their job. But I also, if we have the wrong person in, which fortunately we do not, I mean, we have the good person in there, but we don't want to, we want to have something that protects us for, to make sure people are allowed to move through the process without, to at least be considered, to be chosen from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is my point. And then from those applicants, have more weight on who they want to work with, would be my suggestion, but something to that effect.
Right. I like that. And it could be something as easy as, we could add some language in terms of the powers of the governing body, kind of like the way it is right now, where you set out the things that the city administrator can do. We could set out in terms of the powers and duties of the governing body. We could specifically add in there that we would have the ability to be a part of the hiring process, kind of like it has the city administrator in there right now. Mm-hmm. So
Your Honor, is that not what it says when it says that the city administrator with the consent of a majority of the governing body shall appoint? That is what that's saying.
Right. We'd have to consent to it
Right.
before he could appoint one.
So why would you change that? Because that verbiage actually makes sense to me, unless I'm missing something.
Well, I think the worry is that it could be back to something where we're just getting a staff report that says, this is who I'm recommending. We don't have a chance to see the resumes. We don't have a chance to be a part of the selection process, really.
But at that point, we would just not provide consent of the majority.
And that's kind of was my point, is that at that point, we could say, hey, we want to follow a process where we're involved in the interviews.
Right. And that makes more sense, but in this particular part of the code, though, the way this is written makes sense. We would probably change that part of the code, would we not?
Right, that's what I'm.
In terms of the duties of the city administrator.
True, right. Anything to add, Mr. Butterfield? This is something that I have been wanting to be, that's the reason it's a staff report, but from me, by the way, this is something I wrote. No AI was used in the in the preparation of this.
Bad.
Yeah.
Read one for a virtual meeting?
I'd run it through Bard.
Oh, no, we're not gonna have a
I think
virtual
the idea is, we all have the same idea, it's just.
how to get there.
Specifically.
How to get it worded so
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, I think we're all in
I mean,
agreement.
I
and-
definitely think that the administrator should be part of the hiring process. I don't want to take the council out of it either. So I just want to make sure that that's clear.
Well, and to a certain extent, I think this language would get us there. The only question is if you have a council that's willing to say, hey, we want to follow this process when it comes to it. But could you theoretically, with this language, have a council that there would just be a report from the city administrator and say, hey, this is who I want, and then the council votes yay or nay? You could have that too. But I hesitate to hamstring a future council if that is the process they wanted to follow too. This gives us a little bit more discretion to decide how we want it to do. But I can hear what you're saying in terms of saying, hey, we want to be a part of that interview process and the process of selection.
But Your Honor, you could do that in other ways too. If there's an opening, obviously, we're going to know that there's an opening, and we could let the city administrator know that we want to be a part of that process at that time.
Right.
And then the city administrator would presumably follow that, and then we would approve or not approve by majority.
And if the city administrator didn't follow that, again, these are hypotheticals. We really appreciate you, Mr. Butterfield. I think if
As we speak of you in the third person anonymously, but proxy.
by proxy. But you're right. If there were some sort of a disagreement there, the council's power would be just to say, hey, this process that you followed isn't what we wanted. We're not going to be consenting to it. We'd like to start all over again and follow a different process. So we have that authority.
I always opt for the least amount of verbiage that makes the most impact. And the way this is written says that it's a city administrator with the consent of the majority of the governing body. So in the end, the council still has the overriding authority to approve or not the hiring of a department head.
Right.
it's saying, you can say yes or no, but you don't get any choice in who number 2, 3, or 4 was. You don't even get to know who that was. Where I would feel more comfortable if we created a committee of 2 people to sit with the city administrator to look at the top 3 or something. He's going to have the most power in that decision-making.
I think a combination of Lindsay and Mike, the council should be allowed to be in part of the,
Yeah.
the interviewing process. If they choose not to, if, like what Dean says, if he's happy to just do it at the end, and others want to be more involved in seeing who's available and some input, then I think having a little bit of verbiage like what Mike said makes sense.
I concur with that.
Currently, an unknown board that I belong to has 3 people. There are 7 on the board. Those 3 people have hamstrung the hiring of an intelligent individual for the last 2 years. we have spent $500,000 to $750,000 on outside services without the governing body of all of the members having a voice in that. Now, whether that's good or bad is immaterial. $750,000 is a little excessive. There is not one person here that knows how to count to $750,000, and that's our tax money. I know for a fact that Dean and Mr. Bailey and myself want that opportunity to find out who we're hiring. We don't distrust any of our previous administrators. They have all matched and been good. But this clarifies that.
And I think, I guess the point is it's to what extent do we want to have that written in, and to what extent do we want to leave it flexible? So for example, if we were to say the council shall be a part of the interview process, that actually does kind of hamstring us and makes it so the whole council has to be part of that, and that takes away the discretion. As Mike said, we could theoretically say, okay, we're going to have a committee of 2 members of the council that are going to be there for the interviews, and they're going to report back. We're saying we want the whole council there, or we want none of the council there. And so that's where it gets difficult.
But you
if
have
you
the
would-
flexibility now, sorry.
That's right. What if you at least had a member from each ward?
Sure.
And then that way our community is
Right.
represented.
You wouldn't want to have a quorum of the council involved in that process.
You're right. Then we have to advertise it.
Right.
Go into executive session. So the point is that the way it's proposed here gives us the discretion for all of those. I'm not discounting the idea of having, I like spelling things out a little bit better so that we can make sure that we can be a part of it. I guess all I'm saying is the way that this is written, we could do what Dean proposes, we could do what Mike proposes, we could have a vote of the council and say, this is what we want to do as part of our process, and we've got the discretion to do it. We could do that the way the ordinance is now, too, as a matter of fact, without any change. The only part is, and we could even, as the council, direct and say, we want it to be your decision, Mr. Butterfield, or whoever the city administrator is, and then we will decide based on who you think you would like. The only difference is this spells it out. So when it comes to spelling it out, I'm all about spelling it out, but I'm also all about flexibility. So it's really up to your pleasure. We could either table this and we could kind of look at some different options. I could look at some different language or different ways we could skin that cat, or we could pass it and we could look at possible other options at the second reading. At your pleasure.
I think that's how we've done it in the past. I think we could pass it contingent upon you rewriting it to be more clear.
Well, and I think it,
We'll let some other lawyer tell you that you're wrong. That'll be down the road somewhere.
and the reality is it wouldn't have to be a very big change.
No,
It could be something that just says the council may direct that they, or a committee formed from the council is a part of the interview process.
I like that.
There you go.
And I think that'd be easy enough, and we can add that language in. And I like saying may because that gives us the discretion, but it also gives us the power
Right.
to do that. And
And, different ones of the senior staff positions make us lean one way or the other.
To whether we
Not that they aren't all equally important in their jobs.
any thoughts, Mr. Butterfield, as we continue to talk about you like you're not here? I'm sorry, just so the council understands, I've been trying to keep him out of it because this is something that has been my recommendation, and I don't want anybody to be thinking it's something that Mr. Butterfield has sought or seeks, or any thoughts to add?
Your Honor, I appreciate the opportunity to provide comment, and I appreciate the discussion. Obviously, I'll follow whatever direction that you have. I am your employee. I would agree with Mr. Peranto that when you create an ordinance, clear, simple language is always the best because you're projecting something that's not going to be applied for the next 2, 3, or 6 months, but hopefully for several years. And so the more language you add into this, you're adding it into your municipal code, and you could complicate things if you don't consider every single variable. So simpler is best. If with the ordinance as it's proposed, I bring forward an appointment and you have not been fully apprised of the process or felt that you were excluded, shame on me, because the goal is to get your concurrence and to have that participation. If you had an administrator that excluded you from the process, it seems that this simple language is very strong where you could say, we will not provide concurrence until the process matches what we would like. The hiring of positions is unique every single time you go through it. And you may want to perform a certain way under one hiring. You may want to perform a different way under a different hiring. Or 5 years from now, you may not know how you want to handle that. So my thought is how you have it drafted now is probably the best language. It addresses all of the concerns that you've brought up today, wherein your goal is to have the ability to participate. And with the final consent and approval, you can deny anything that's brought forward if you felt that you weren't given the opportunity to participate. Once a vacancy is opened, as your employee, there's an opportunity to have a very frank and open discussion about how the hiring process could proceed forward. So I think what you have here covers the concerns that you have, but also avoids complications by overriding an ordinance where you could create problems where you don't need to. Usually simplicity is better for creating law.
I know.
Told you.
What's that?
I told you so.
Why?
I'm just kidding. I had to. I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness.
Children.
I-
You know what time it is?
Past your bedtime.
Apparently.
Keep getting later, it'll get better.
Yeah. Well, if I can look at this and see, the nice thing about having language that's not proscriptive, in other words, saying the council may direct, is it's just saying that's something that we may do if we like, not restricting us.
Occurrence by occurrence, we can choose the way we want to do it.
But even without that language, I agree with Mr. Butterfield, we could direct. If we feel more comfortable having that specific language in there, there's no reason we can't put it in there. I agree that you can't always see into the future and see where problems could occur. I'll give an example, actually. We're talking about the possibility, this has just been an ongoing discussion. We had some officers that were saying, hey, I like the way that the public intox and lander is done. Public intox and lander gives examples of a way that somebody could be too impaired to take care of their own selves and ensure their own safety. So it has examples. Ours doesn't. Ours just says you're guilty of public intoxication if you are unable to, and I can't quote it exactly, but it's basically ensure your own safety and that sort of thing. So ours is broad enough that it captures all of that, but it doesn't have the examples. So we might actually bring an ordinance forward that says such
If you
as.
can't walk straight, that counts, or whatever.
And that's what Lander has. They have some such as you're stumbling, such as you are incoherent when people talk to you. You're passed out and you can't be roused due to intoxication. All of those things are things that our ordinance captures just fine because it's a call that you have to make. Is this person too impaired to be able to take care of themselves? But it's something we've been talking about, the possibility of that and doing something that's kind of a mix of how ours is and how Lander's is. Yeah. So it's nice to have examples and having that the council
But then the
may.
examples, and you can then say, well, what I was doing wasn't under the examples, and so that doesn't mean I wasn't publicly intoxicated.
And that's
So,
and that's one of the dangers. And so you can say such as, and that means these are examples, but there could be more.
not limited to.
Yep, including but not limited to. But the problem is when you do that, when you're writing an ordinance or a law of any kind, anything that's not included has to be similar to the other things on the list. In other words, if the things on the list have something in common that you don't see immediately, like they all have to do with alcohol, and then we're trying to deal with someone who's publicly intoxicated on methamphetamine or fentanyl, you would have to be restricted to alcohol.
Alcohol-related symptoms, or whatever, yeah.
And we might not recognize that when we write it. And we have to go back and say, oh, wait, that wasn't what was intended, and
Sort of like the zoning issues that we run into with, oh, it wasn't specifically said you can't, paint your fence purple or whatever it is,
right?
Your Honor, I think it's just nice to have this conversation so that we know that everything we put into this at the beginning is still covered with that new language. So at least we can talk about it and have Dean tell us it does cover it.
Your Honor, let's call for the motion.
Okay. Seeing we don't have any motions to amend or anything like that, all in favor of passage of ordinance number 24002 on first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. And I will come to second reading with an idea, and we can toss it around then and see if we like that. Okay. Evolve, diversify, and grow our economy, EDGE, funding agreements, Child Development Services of Fremont County, Gina Apodaca, Java. Ms. Harris, you're popular tonight. If you could give us your report.
Thank you. On May 21st of this year, the council approved agreements for use of economic development tax funds between Child Development Services of Fremont County, I will refer to them as CDS throughout the rest of the report, and Java. After reviewing the funding agreements, the recipients are each requesting a change to the language on the agreement, specific to Section 5C. CDS's application for funding was to provide staffing for a child care center, retrofitting a bus, and adding a sensory room, which together would create 4 new jobs. The application was only approved in part to support the bus retrofit and the sensory room. However, funding was not provided to start the child care center, thus reducing the staffing levels as they had requested on their application. CDS is requesting the following change. The approved language was to employ 2 new full-time equivalent employees within 6 months of entering into the agreement. The amended language is to retain 2 new full-time equivalent employees and increase 1 additional employee's schedule by 5 hours per week upon completion of the retrofit and the sensory room. While Java indicated on their application that they would be creating 10 new jobs, they are not full-time positions. The proprietors intend to hire 11 to 15 employees. However, they are part-time positions. Java is requesting to change the approved language from employing 10 new full-time equivalent employees within 12 months of entering into the agreement to amended language of employing 4 new full-time equivalent employees within 12 months of entering into the agreement. All the other general provisions of the agreement remain unchanged. And of course, you have the option to choose whether or not to enter into the proposed agreements or recommend changes to the terms and conditions. And I would stand for any questions you would have.
Thank you. Question?
Your Honor, on Javas, for example, they're asking to be 4 new full-time employees. Does that mean 8 part-time would count as 4 full-time? Or I guess, how does that work?
Yes, Your Honor, that is correct. They did provide us with a list of the positions that they have within their organizations. She's got some part-time college students. She's got some high school students. So yes, and to answer your question, Councilman Bailey, yes, it would be part-time positions added up to equal full-time equivalent position hours.
So between all those positions would add up to 160 hours a week, kind of an idea?
Yes.
Still 8 employees.
No, that's 4 employees. Well, I don't care how many employees it takes to get to
Yeah.
40 hours a week times 4 employees is 160.
Officially, and we define this in the agreement, officially a 20-hour-a-week employee would be considered half FTE.
Okay.
So if they're basically, and you're exactly right, the best way to think about it would be to say, we are talking about 160 hours per week, pretty much. However, it's mixed and
It
matched.
takes 2 or 10 to get there, yeah.
Yep.
Your Honor, if I may also, I've received an education from this myself as well. So we will be amending our EDGE application to read full-time equivalent employees going forward. So it's very clear.
And I would note, I guess, for folks that are interested in applying for EDGE, we take seriously what you advertise you're going to do. That's when, if you say, I'm going to be providing this many jobs, when the MOU goes out, the MOU says, we're going to hold you to that. And that's what you've said you'll do, and we're going to keep you to it.
And I guess that's where I sort of have a little bit of a problem with this, is they advertised that they were gonna bring in 10, and they're saying 4. And CDS was saying they were gonna bring in 2 new, and now they're saying they're gonna retain 2. Well, that's not the same as generating more employment. That's just keeping yourself at the same level.
Well, and what,
On CDS, though, I think that was with the purchase of the
yes.
daycare was with the 2, and that's why they amended theirs. Is that correct, Mia? Yeah.
That is correct.
And that's where some of this gets a little difficult when they come to us with a proposal and they're saying, if you give us all of this money, we'll provide this. Well, what we've tended to do is say, we're not going to give you this much, we'll give you this much. So then we have to go back and say, okay, well, if you're going to fund it partly, I can't do all the jobs I said I would. And so that's the situation with CDS.
Right. Because I think that the general idea of economic development is employ more people.
Right. Expand.
Is there an
I'd love to bring one to you and say, well, I'm gonna increase the profit to me, but I'm not gonna do anything else for the employees. Well, that's probably not gonna have good consequences in our decision.
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Is there an answer to the 2 question?
I'm sorry, Councilman.
10, 8, 2. What happened to the 2? Why aren't we having what happened to the original estimate? It's because there's not enough coffee available in the United States, and why? What has changed with their proposal?
Your Honor, they intend to hire, I can pull up the actual number that she gave me, but up to 15 employees. But they wanted to make sure that they were conservative enough with their estimates that they could meet the terms of the agreement. So that's not to say that they aren't going to hire more or have more employees, but they wanted to make sure that they could fulfill their terms on the agreement.
What was the terms? I thought the terms were 10.
So what they had originally advertised, so they said they were going to employ 10 new employees, and they still intend to employ 10 new employees. They just, I think when they filled it out, didn't realize we're talking about full-time, not necessarily part-time.
Isn't that convenient?
Well, I guess you could say it is or it isn't, but, and the reality is.
Yeah, 10 people is 10 people, and unless you say they're gonna be part-time, you know darn well what part-time and full-time is. Wally World knows, you know, I know, and Mike knows.
And I would also note, Ms. Harris, because of this, has been reminding applicants and did just last Thursday.
Good.
Whatever you tell us that you're intending on doing, we will hold you to that.
Yeah.
And it's a good reminder. But I think in terms of, for example, CDS, they were talking about something much bigger than we ended up. We ended up giving them a bus, and they were asking for a bus, a new room. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, if that was laid out that the 2 employees were gonna be in the childcare center, then their adjustment makes sense. And I guess we need to be very careful because the public view of this process is very scrutinized. And for example, our mushroom guy tonight, well, he changed direction quite a bit from what his original proposal was. And I don't know that we've gotten told about that until tonight. So he didn't buy the equipment he was saying he was gonna buy, and he didn't hire any employees he said he was gonna hire. You know, and I understand people have to pivot from their original plan because stuff happens, but that might also change how the funding
Well,
should
and
work.
That's exactly right, because when we make a decision, or when Edge does, based on one certain set of understanding, and then it gets changed without Edge committee's consent or council's consent.
Right.
Your Honor, I think we've made
not a
great
good
strides in the last couple of years in trying to subvert that and try to have a better thumb on it, because initially it was kind of free money. And I think in the last couple of years, we've actually reined that in and created and actually made stipulations of what they're going to do.
Well, and
When I went back and looked at the Java app, and it did say create 10 new jobs. They didn't say 10 new full-time people.
Right.
They are creating more than 10 jobs, so it's kind of a weird thing. And yeah, so FT wasn't there, but now as we gain that knowledge and become smarter in this process, we're pivoting and making changes to what the MOU looks like. And that's all we can do. Recently we've started having a bigger hand as a council in the EDGE funding and how that's handled. And I think we're in a more, not only are we more enlightened, but we can actually provide that clarity and that transparency to the citizens of Riverton too, because that's important. I hear that all the time. We just give off free money. It's like, well, yes, but it comes with strings. I don't know if those strings were in place on the in the MOU for the mushroom project. Was it?
Mr.
Yes.
Butterfield.
Your Honor, the agreement for high country fungus and also brown sugar stated that they had to spend the funds expeditiously, so within 18 months. And then it also stated that if the funds were not used consistent with the terms of the agreement, City Council could claw them back or have the funds returned. You could interpret the agreement as being very specific, saying, well, you were provided funds for this specific purpose, you deviated from that purpose, therefore we find you in breach. Or you could work with the entity and say, while you pivoted, you still utilize the funds to promote economic development, bring money into the community or jobs, and therefore we're okay. So the agreement provides for those two provisions, but it is up to your discretion on how you want to interpret or enforce that.
And I would say we're still within, I think we're almost exactly 1 year from both brown sugar and high country fungus, because I actually looked up the agreements. They were in July of last year. So they still have time to be able to spend the funds and do what they said they're going to do. For example, brown sugar, they've got the equipment now, they've got the building now, and just need to get an operator hired, and then they can have that employee like they said they would. So, but I agree. I mean, we want to hold people's feet to the fire. That's part of the whole point.
Yeah.
That's part of the whole process. And I will say one of the things, an unintended consequence, so to speak, is these funds, though, also have tax consequences, and that's led to people not wanting to accept them, even when they've been awarded them.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had that situation as well. So it's complicated, but I agree with you, Councilman Paranto. We are trying to make sure we do it right. We want to keep people accountable. We also want to be able to encourage employing people, retaining jobs, bringing net increase of funding money into the community. So that's the goal. The question, though, we could still, these are proposed changes. This is basically, we went to them with a contract and we said, this is what we would like you to sign. At this point, it's coming to us with in the business, it's an offer, and then there would be an acceptance. This is a counteroffer. So they're saying, I was saying 10 new employees, and I'm still going to be able to have 10 new employees, but I'm nervous that those 10 new employees aren't going to equal 5 FTE or 10 FTE.
Right.
So I actually see this as a positive that they both read it. They both knew they were going to be held accountable to it, and they're saying, we can do this. We don't have to accept this. And as a matter of fact, if we didn't accept it, I think at this point, we've already voted on the funding, but the idea was contingent on reaching an agreement. So if we didn't like the counteroffer, we could just say, well, fine, then you're not getting the funding. Not that I'm encouraging that, I'm just saying that discretion is still there. This is really where the funding comes from, is from the agreement. So the question is, do we accept that idea of 10 full-time employees, or 10 employees, and you checked, and I agree, it's just 10 employees, not 10 full-time employees. 10 employees, are we willing to say that that's 4 FTE? I will say we did not, in some of the early ones, even specify how many employees. I actually checked High Country Fungus, and I checked Brown Sugar Coffee Roastery. And in neither of those did we actually require them to imply a certain number of people. So we're trying to kind of learn and grow and say, hey, if you're going to advertise for this, we're going to keep you to it.
Well, because we're making decisions based on the presentation they're giving us.
Right.
So you can't make a presentation and bait and switch. So we have to have that accountability, which is what
My bank
we've all
would not be very happy if I told them I wanted to borrow money for a new gas station, and then I went and bought a new 53-foot motorhome.
Or you went to the
Don't-
Bahamas.
Yeah,
but they
I think
both
that would
use
go over
gas.
very well.
They both use gas.
They both use gas, I agree. So,
I guess from my perspective, I see both of these as being appropriate. And the reason I say that is because 10 new employees, I think it's reasonable to expect 10 new employees to be about 4 FTE.
I think in that industry, that's probably appropriate.
And I think most of
15,
them,
20-hour kind of week.
And she is saying 11 to 15 employees, so it may actually exceed that.
right. As for CDS, to me, that one makes sense too, because the way that the application was for the full funding, we didn't provide that. And so being able to say this is going to help them retain 2 FTE employees and increase 1 additional employee schedule by 5 hours per week, I think it's
That
reasonable.
might as well say no employees addition.
Yeah,
And it
and
really is not much.
I agree.
I mean,
But also, we're not giving them, I mean, we're giving them money for a bus and some money for the,
no. And it's a great organization. I'm not, it's just, yeah.
it's not an expansion.
Yeah,
It's
it's
more of a
really
retention.
not a employment improvement. It's more services improvement, which also are good for the economy of Fremont County.
Your Honor, I like that we're having the discussion and that it's in a transparent way and that we are holding people accountable.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. All right.
Ms. Harris?
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up on one thing. When I was speaking with Child Development Services, I said, would you otherwise be eliminating the positions if you were not to receive the funding? And they said, yes, that is correct. So they're retaining jobs.
So this is very much actually money that would be for retention. Interesting. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's helpful. Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the agreement as modified for use of economic development tax funds between the City of Riverton and Child Development Services of Fremont County.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bailey with the motion, Councilwoman Cox with the second. It's almost 9 o'clock, or it's past 9 o'clock. Any other discussion? Are you still there, Councilwoman Salisbury?
I am.
I just double check because I don't see you, so. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. I'd entertain a motion to approve the agreement for use of economic development tax funds between the City of Riverton and Gina Apodaca Java Java.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Paranto with the motion. Councilwoman Borders with the second. Any discussion there? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion passes. All right, we do need an executive session. Sorry. And we won't have any motions when we come back, Mr. Over, and it shouldn't be very long, just FYI. I'd entertain a motion to convene into executive session for the purpose of personnel, considering the appointment, employment, right to practice, dismissal, complaints, or charges against a public officer, professional person or employee in accordance with Wyoming Statute 164405A2, and for the purpose of considering offers, tendering wages, salaries, benefits, or terms of employments during negotiations in accordance with 164405A10.
Second.
Councilman Pinto with the motion, Councilwoman Borders with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. We stand convened into executive session at 9:04 PM. I'd invite Mr. Butterfield to attend the executive session. Thank you. All right. Chair would entertain a motion to reconvene into into regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Larson with the motion, second by Councilwoman Borders. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Regular session of the City Council is now reconvened at 9:29 PM. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Second.
Nice.
So second.
Second. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. We are adjourned at 9:29 PM.
Thanks, everybody.
Tim,